I'm going to take a drink of coffee, and then I'm going to tell you all about it.
A lot of people don't think of this as a supplement or a performance-enhancing drug.
So it absolutely... That's all right. Well, sometimes you just have to do it.
Kind of cut off.
Sometimes you have to light the afterburner. So let's talk a little bit about that. In a perfect world, we are trying not to consume caffeine probably past noon. In a perfect world. Now, we live in an imperfect world, but that's just something to think about. So for me, on a given day, I try to not consume caffeine past 3 o'clock. Every once in a while I will. If we're here coaching late, you want to light the afterburner and bring the energy. You know, we're not making cupcakes. You gotta drink some caffeine and get after it. Yeah, you got to do it. You got to break some caffeine eggs. It is a stimulant, clearly. It is a performance-enhancing drug. At the most basic level, it makes you more alert. It gives you more energy. It does a few things inside your body that enhance your performance. So what I would consider doing is not using it every day. I think it is absolutely a mistake to be on a random Tuesday, like taking pre-workout and getting ready to go bananas, like so you can do what?
Commute.
Like why are you doing that? That is the opposite of optimal. What would make sense is when there's something that's very, very important to you and it aligns with the time of the day, maybe then using caffeine to make sure you're super, super focused. But again, it is a drug. It is probably the most widely abused drug in our society because it doesn't have very negative, obvious negative benefits like some other ones do. But it's something you need to be mindful of, especially if you have trouble sleeping, either falling asleep or maintaining restful sleep. The first thing I would consider looking at, in addition to the temperature of your room and how dark it is when are you consuming caffeine? Because the half-life of caffeine, so if we drink Starbucks Blonde Roast, which is very high in caffeine, is 6 hours. So if you're consuming 500 milligrams of caffeine at 3 o'clock, all right, well, 6 hours later at 9 p.m., you're still rolling at 250. So those are the things that we want to be thinking about with regard. It's not that you should stay away from it. It's that it's going to hang out with you for a little bit. You need to be wary of when you're consuming it and how and what's the reason behind it. If we need to do that to get through a workout, then I would argue that maybe we need to look at some of the other parts of our lifestyle first.
Caffeine's incredible. And the name of the game really comes down to strategic dosing, if I would sum it up in one way. But also very fascinating in the way that I'm sure if you guys drink coffee, you grow a tolerance to it. So I was going to say not too different than some illicit drug. So very fascinating in that sense, but binds in receptors in the brain. So that's why we start to see all these really like increased endorphins. I love the way the FDA described improved vigilance. So just being more alert and being like a little snappy, having a little hitch in your giddy up, as I like to say in the noon class. But in terms of like specific dosing, so we are looking at 3 to 6 milligrams per kilogram at least 60 minutes before exercise. So the way this breaks down for me, Jeff, I'm about 220, all right? So I'm gonna take my body weight, boom, and divide that by 2.2 to get the amount of kilograms that I weigh, which conveniently is an even 100. So I'm gonna multiply that by the 3 to 6 grams, and anywhere from 300 to 600 milligrams of caffeine before my workout would be optimal for me, which conveniently is about 475 milligrams of a venti blonde roast from Starbucks, kind of fits the bill. So that's what you guys want to be thinking about there. And again, I'm sure there's varying amounts or products of caffeine consumption in here. You guys, quick Google search can tell you exactly how much caffeine is in whatever tea or coffee that you're drinking. So that way you can improve on that.
I think an idea is just to be mindful. Like, how much caffeine are you consuming? When are you consuming it?
Yeah.
Is it a source, if you're trying, again, to optimize body composition? Is there a bunch of other stuff in it? Are you drinking, energy drinks with 40 grams of sugar in it? Mm-hmm. Are you drinking, like, those packaged latte things? And they're packaged so that they're organic and all this nonsense. And, like, they're packaged so that they're, like, theoretically healthy for you. And you flip them around and it has, like, 16 grams of sugar. And it's like, come on. So I think that's the thing, is you really need to pay attention. Again, they're trying to trick you. You have to kind of, when you're looking at labels, even caffeinated drinks, like who's smarter, you or them? And if you look at it from that, almost like this little battle between those companies and you, and they're going to try to trick you and you have to outsmart them, then it becomes much clearer as to what you should kind of go for and what you should stay away from.
Yeah. You can sleep when you're dead, right?
That's it. Boom.
Yeah. Let's
Sometimes
go.
you fly at
Let's
the
go, baby.
afterburner, though. Let's do it.
All right, guys.
Here we go.
Oh, man. If you guys have talked to me about anything, you know how much I love beets and how much I appreciate nitric oxide production in the body. So I think this is one of our last ones we're going to be talking about here. But at the basic level of nitric oxide, basically what we're doing is we are modulating or improving the blood flow to muscle tissue. So in turn, this is getting more oxygen to their specific site. It's going to help generate more ATP, which is energy. And in turn, research has shown that it can improve performance anywhere from 5 to 25% if you are dosing this properly and doing it well. So again, just like the magnesium, it's found naturally in foods. However, again, the way we typically eat here in America, it's hard for us to get that. But overall, we're looking at anywhere about 310 to 560 milligrams before exercise, about 2 to 3 hours before, so we can digest that, we can process that, we can start to feel the effects of that nitric oxide, which is conveniently in one nice large handful of spinach, for an example. We can throw that into a smoothie or eat a nice salad before we come in. And that is where I would recommend getting that from. However, if you've talked to Stifler or I on a Friday, Trader Joe's has a lovely beet juice with added lemon that you can put down before a nice workout. And being liquid form, it doesn't have much to process in terms of fiber. It can really absorb that a lot quicker. And truly, I stand by it. I felt the effects. It smells terrible, it tastes like dirt, but hey, that's what the Gains train is all about.
I don't like beets, just eat spinach. It doesn't taste like anything. It's fine. Tastes like health.
Beets is not an acronym, that's beets. Beets, Bears, Battlestar Galactica. All right. Doug, what's up, buddy?
Quick point for this. So last year at the Arnold, we went and got us all a little bit a shot of beet juice. Was to change your shape.
Yep. Can you argue with that? Can you argue with that, Liz?
I cannot.
So nitric oxide is also found in a lot, like pre-workouts will go out of their way to talk about that to improve blood flow. Often will be talked, Jack 3D, NO Explode, a lot of those ones from like back when we were in college. But basically you can truly feel like that pump that people talk about, right? Maybe you become a little bit more vascular from that, just feel a little bit tighter. Speaking of, man, looking great.
I don't need any beet juice.
So don't need any beet juice.
I don't like beets. I
And
really
again,
don't like
you know,
beets.
our body produces this naturally as we get into that fight or flight response, and we're like stepping up to a really heavy barbell. However, if we can improve our performance by drinking a little bit of beet juice or eating some more vegetables, I'm gonna do that. So, yeah, I'm looking at you, Liz.
I eat my vegetables.
Again, I'm looking right at you. Where do you want me to look, sir? It is question
Sure
time.
is.
Because it's going to be perfect for what you guys were just talking about. So, how would you guys recommend, let's say you are wanting to make a change in your supplementation. I came here, saw something, want to make a change, but you also realize you have some nutritional or dietary changes that you want to make also. I think it's hard if you're changing both at the same time, right? So I change nutrition and I change supplementation. How do I actually gauge which one's benefiting me? Is it nutrition or is it supplementation?
Yeah.
So how do you recommend that, like, if somebody's going to make a change today, would you recommend that they kind of keep their diet relatively the same so that they're actually seeing just the change in supplementation? Or how would you recommend that they start that semester?
That's a good question. I think it's going to vary based off the individual and mainly how you're eating at baseline. I would think most of the people in this room are probably pretty aware of what they're putting in their body and trying to eat healthfully. So there's kind of and Dash, you probably run into this in the hospital sometimes. When there's an issue or an illness and a patient comes in, there's never a monotherapy. We never try one approach to help that person. It's usually like 10,000 things thrown on this one person, hoping that the best thing happens. So I would definitely, start at the top. We talked a lot about the creatine and the protein being a huge influencer in changing, someone's baseline stuff. So if you are already feeling like you're pretty dialed in on those things, I would work at trying just one thing at a time and seeing if that truly is causing a change. But also too, if you're not really sure like how you should implement, or take a look at what your goals are specifically. So if it's performance based, that's going to change the answer. If it's strength based, that's going to change the answer. If you're just making sure you're covering your bases, that's going to change the answer too. So I would recommend one thing at a time. I don't know if you have.
Yeah, I think that would say that too. I think anything that you need to, that you're going to try to do needs to be sustainable. So Andy can prescribe you the perfect set of macronutrients, but if you don't follow them, it doesn't matter, right? If you come in here and you aren't putting out maximal effort, then you can't expect to get maximal or optimal results. I mean, in that way, it's very, very simple. Like you have to, with this, have everything as dialed in as you can, realizing that there is no perfect. We're constantly just trying to tighten the screws a little bit at a time. But if you're making that effort, you're going to be a whole heck of a lot closer than if you're not. You're just sort of willy-nilly about it or inconsistent. I think consistency is the key.
Yeah. Douglas.
Talk about your guys' game plan for we got summer months coming up, vacations, planning barbecues. Maybe enjoy something a little more than you would otherwise. How do you guys rebound from that, or you don't have any supplements, or you're kind of creature of habit. When you're at home, but when you're on vacation, you don't have that stuff readily available. I know there's some planning stuff you can do, but talk about your guys' experience with that. How you guys got that?
Yeah. Do you want to spearhead how you typically take on those situations first?
Sure. So I tend to be very much a creature of habit and a creature of routine. And it doesn't bother me to have my kind of nutrition within relatively strict parameters just because I like it. I've always kind of enjoyed that. So times where you're at a social gathering and you're going to have a couple of drinks, or you're away and your nutrition's not going to be optimal, I tend not to worry about it a whole lot for me personally, because I know that in the long term, the other 99.4% of the year, I'm pretty dialed in and kind of can be right where I want to be. So I take that opportunity to not really pay a lot of attention to it. I've also noticed, however, the corollary to that is that I don't have a great desire to like go bananas in the way that I used to. So if I'm at like a cookout, I'm just going to eat as much meat as I feel like. I'm never going to look at it and be like, well, I've probably had enough. Like, there is no enough. Enough is when I don't want to eat anymore. Or until they run out. And like, you don't want to take, I'm not going to take a little kid's plates. Like, that's enough, But in terms of like drinking and things like that, like I've just found that you just feel it. Like you just have that moment where you're like, all right, that's enough. Or you feel it the next day and you're like, okay, it's time to get back on the train. And that for me just kind of it straightens itself out. Yeah. You never feel deprived that way. Like you can do whatever you want, and then you're just back on the train, and you never feel like you're missing anything.
Yeah, I think there's so many different strategies to pursue to balance that. Like let's take, for example, going away for a week. Kind of depends on what you're doing, but for me, again, just thinking about trying to feel as good as possible during that time, right? You're traveling somewhere to experience something. We're not traveling to eat somewhere new. We're traveling to try something new. So basically how I would view that is I try and stay on point as much as I can, thinking of really good clean eating habits, good proteins, good carbohydrates, get your vegetables and fruits in, try and make your body feel great, and then every day do something where, if you feel like you have to indulge, do that. So whether that's the dinner meal at the end of the evening so you can have a couple glasses of wine or a couple glasses of beer, you maybe know you're having a dessert that day. Keeping it isolated is the best thing that you can do. And anytime we're doing, focusing on habit change, where maybe in the past those things have really caused a detriment to your progress, any improvement off of what a previous version of yourself was doing is going to help kind of keep you in the clear. So thinking about it that way, where even if it was, one less piece of cake or, one less alcoholic beverage, that's a good positive step in the right direction. But it's definitely going to be individual for what you're working towards and how fast you want to get there. So at the end of the day, though, I subscribe to Ryan's thought of just enjoy it. You're doing everything else right 364 days of the year, so that one day isn't going to cause that much of an impact.
Sometimes that can help sustainability too. If you look at it like I can't do something, then we implicitly want to do that thing. If you look at it like I can do whatever I want, I'm just not, that doesn't align with what I want to do, then it's a lot easier to not really worry about it too much. Great question, Doug. Thanks. What other questions are there?
Airbnb, Doug, kitchen. Yeah.
No excuses. Cook for yourself.
Well, then you can make your own choice.
Yeah. What's up, Dre?
First question is, I saw this a couple times. The phrase "pair your workout." Does that mean during workout?
Before or after? Surrounding your workout.
Okay.
Yep.
And then for someone like myself who doesn't like to consume calories before a workout, typically because I'm up at 4:15, 5:30, is casein protein a better maybe choice in the evening? And then also taking the post workout. Will casein help? Is what I guess I'm trying to ask for early morning workouts when I can't consume calories that early.
I think it would be a question of how you feel in the morning.
Okay.
So if you're adjusted to it, like you're a consistent early morning guy and have been for a long time. So if you are finding that not consuming anything, like working out on a relatively empty stomach, works for you, then I don't think that's implicitly wrong. I think sometimes what can give you trouble is you try to like square peg round hole it, and like, well, I need to eat before, but the way your workout's timed, that's not super realistic, and it just can cause more problems.
Yeah. To answer your question directly, I think yes, casein would be a good option in that case, because then you're at least having something that's still processing, perhaps, when you wake up in the morning. The fasted cardio or fasted exercise comment comes up a lot, or question comes up a lot, and really it is, again, very individualistic in the sense that can you feel like you can put out that intensity in a workout comparatively to if you ate some food or had some carbohydrate, something to help give you the energy to do that.